Frame Raider.
Resistance Retribution was released for the PlayStation Portable in early 2009 to very positive reviews. I was stuck with budget games like Deadhead Fred. I've only played a few hours of this one before.
I've only played the demo.
What the hell was that?
Yeah, what's up? How you doing?
PSP man? How are you here?
Huh? Oh yeah, you remember that 2600 video we did?
From last year?
Yeah. Yeah, you never ended the call. I was just waiting for you to do another PSP game so I could jump in with you. So, you wanna do Retribution?
Resistance Retribution is a third-person shooter developed by Bend Studios. Since it came out, I haven't heard that much about it.
Yeah, same, which is odd since it's one of Sony's IPs. Typically, the only shooters that get talked about on PSP are SOCOM titles, Medal of Honor Heroes, or The Third Birthday. Because of the lack of a second analog stick, they usually relied on the action buttons for camera control.
Despite nobody liking that, it does kinda work. Anyways, I'm playing on a Vita, which lets me use Plus mode.
What's that?
Since the Vita has a second analog stick, you're allowed to use it with this game. If you buy the game off PSN, the feature is supposedly included. I can't speak for that method, but I did install a hack that re-enabled this, and the camera was always a half-second delayed. I played through the whole game this way because, yeah, it was awful, but I thought it was normal, so I tried something else. Technically, the original way that you'd set this up is to have a PS3, PSP, controller, and copy of Resistance 2. Then you can use a DualShock 3 controller. That's a long list of shit to have for an optional control method. Alright, let's find out how I'm gonna do that. Why is my manual in French? Thankfully, it's easy. The process is, boot both games, then go to the options of Resistance 2, and select Connect PSP. You have to keep both the system and controller plugged in at all times to use this. It's not entirely convenient. Oh my god.
Is it bad?
Even worse. It's amazing! It feels completely natural, and the controller vibrates when you shoot.
Oh wow, really?
You mean to tell me I played through the whole game with that horrible hack? Do you have any idea how frustrated I am right now?
I mean, I could take a guess.
For anyone wondering, no, I tried connecting a DualShock to the PSP Go. Unfortunately, it doesn't enable the second stick. Anyways, how did you feel about the traditional controls, PSP man?
They're really good, honestly. By giving you an enhanced locking auto-aim system, the developers showed an understanding of how using the action buttons as a camera is just clunky. If there's an enemy on screen, your reticle automatically locks. All you have to do is worry about moving your character around to dodge incoming fire. It works, but sometimes your reticle stays locked to an enemy that isn't a priority.
You can't easily choose your target unless you're using the iron sights.
Yeah, I found that a little difficult to use at times, especially with body-specific hit points. When I first started up this game, I didn't mess with any of the options, and this game could get pretty difficult.
Seems like you and I both played this game shittily.
I went in and turned the acceleration and aiming sensitivity up, and it solved that problem. I think the presets are a little off and should be played around with when you first pick this up.
So with that said, let's start with the game's story. I've recently played through the original Resistance Fall of Man, so I know that an alien species has emerged in Russia during an alternate 1950s timeline. It then takes over the planet. This species, the Chimera, are uber powerful with regenerative abilities. As a result, most enemies are bullet sponges. The Chimera sets up conversion centers where they process humans into what are called hybrid chimeras. Most of the creatures you end up fighting were once humans. Day by day, the numbers are getting lower, so it's up to the remaining resistance to stop it. Where does Retribution fit into this? Well, according to PlayStation, it's a prequel to Resistance 2, but it doesn't really have too much of a connection outside of some intel documents. It's a unique standalone experience that requires no introduction outside of itself. It takes place in Europe, from the perspective of a one-off character named James Grayson. Grayson was once a Royal Marine, but is now being sentenced to death for abandoning his post, after having to kill his infected brother.
Well, thanks for that continuous string of depressing information. Grayson goes on to become a rogue soldier, destroying as many Chimeran conversion centers as he can while dodging his ultimate fate.
I don't like it any more than you do, but human lives are at stake.
You blew it up.
I'm counting that as an intentionally subtle fourth wall break. Anyways, this is Rain Bouchard, someone who's about to give Grayson the lucky break of his life. With the help of her father, Bouchard has been creating a serum to stop the conversion process. She sees Grayson as useful given his history with being inside conversion centers, so she pardons his death sentence in exchange for joining the Maquis. The Maquis isn't fictional, by the way, that was real. It was a group of French resistance fighters from World War II. If you're a history fanatic, you might find something extra to get out of this. For most people, it's a fun method of storytelling and it does what it needs to. That's basically it though. Even the more dramatic moments, like Grayson killing his brother, the context is emotional, but the writing's not very convincing.
Goodbye, Papa.
Not the most convincing voice acting either.
Bloody hell! Hard left! Hard left! No! No!
Dude straight up sounded like an angry bird.
Hard left! Hard left! No! No!
Yeah, here's another gem for you.
Grayson, behind you!
Whoa!
Grayson is always fun to listen to.
That's a sphincter door.
Anyways, there are many secrets in the game like reports, personal logs, and items that Grayson will comment on. These all pause the game for a moment with a wall of text. I've read quite a few of these. Typically I found them more interesting than whatever the characters were talking about.
A lot of the time being their personality conflicts.
Bollocks!
I don't really care about how they feel about each other, so let's just get to the shooting, please?
One of the first things I noticed about Retribution is the competent design. Its mechanics work well and feel fleshed out.
When I play Retribution, there's a premium experience in my hands. Not many PSP games make me feel as if, wow, I'm playing something that was built for this handheld from the ground up. They intended to make what feels like a home console game here.
Enemy armor! Oh my god! Get the hell out of here! Incoming!
I think what demonstrates this best are the little details, like how a new wave of enemies will play a specific sound cue that the player can then memorize to prepare for future battles. Tougher foes usually have louder alerts, which makes you feel tense. It's really well done. Another example is how the player will still take damage behind cover, but significantly less than when exposed. These are the kind of details that I just don't expect from a handheld game of this generation. At the end of my playthrough, I was still learning new things about enemy behaviors, like how most will make active efforts to dodge projectile-based weapons. You see that health bar? That's some good stuff. Resistance Fall of Man also had one, then Resistance 2 came out and used regeneration instead. If that wasn't bad enough, they only let you hold 2 guns at once compared to the previous game's unlimited arsenal. Retribution doesn't bother with that and sticks with the tried and true here. Thanks for that, Bend. I feel they did a great job, from the intense fights to the mech battles. Good way to change up the game's variety and pacing.
Yeah, how did those play for you?
It's very simple gameplay-wise. I enjoyed them, but you might have more to say about it than I did.
I felt they had just enough to make them enjoyable. The mech has regenerating health, which works really well for it. However, for my controls, these levels didn't have auto-aim. The zoomed-out view in the mech doesn't have much accuracy, so I found myself being scoped anytime I was dealing with enemies. This was slightly disorienting, but they're solid and provide a great change of pace to the standard gameplay. I've had a few instances where the game was becoming a little frustrating, but I was able to figure out that it was usually something I was doing wrong. There's this one underwater segment where these siren enemies would kill me before I had a fair chance at them. As it turned out, I was using the wrong weapon. They're weak to the auger specifically.
The controls for moving underwater are already strange enough. Now fight fast-moving mermaids. At least you had auto-aim, dude. This was dreadful with the Vita hack. Can we take a moment to appreciate how every weapon has secondary fire modes? Each of them is useful in different situations, whether it be creating a shield. I don't even remember what the chain guns was. Oh my god, it's a shield too? Why haven't I been using this?
Yeah, a lot of the alt fires are extremely useful. If you charge the one on the auger foley and then let it loose, it'll bounce around whatever room you fire it into and take out multiple enemies in one shot. And the sniper rifle, oh my god, I thought that thing was useless the first time I used it, and it only carries 8 bullets. But its alt fire is literally Max Payne style bullet time, which is a total game changer for multiple parts of the game. The shotgun is extremely good too. Its alt fire wastes pretty much anything in the game. Wish they gave you more ammo for it though.
We need to take a moment to talk about that grenade launcher attachment on your shotgun. Lobbed grenades can kill multiple hybrids at once, something that takes much longer with most other weapons. These guys are very vulnerable to explosions, making that attachment one of the best things in your arsenal.
Dude, the explosive weapons in this game are so good.
Yeah, even the grenades are good. I love how they explode on contact. Blowing up those drones is also great fun. Seeing them light in flames before exploding is a nice touch. Especially since at this point, despite they no longer shoot, they may still suicide bomb you.
Explosives in this game are just short of required for many battles. Other than that gun which literally shoots through walls, these will be the go-to for heavy encounters. For example, you've got brutes like the Titan. Stupid, but tanky.
Compare these with the intelligence of the advanced hybrids you encounter later into the game, often showing up from behind to shoot you in the back. Either that or you'll be charged head-on. These guys don't just get closer to your position, they will actually walk up to you, start meleeing you, while you shoot them with bullets. But they're so damn strong that this is actually an effective tactic for them. I'm always terrified when one of these guys starts charging me. Still, I'll take them over the slip skulls any day. Damn monkey-like creatures jumping from place to place causing all sorts of chaos. Granted, I think the reason I hated them so much was because of the hack. With the locking auto-aim system, it's a non-issue, so that'd probably be most of you playing at home. I had the same problem with leapers. These were a lot worse. Now, PSP man, I'm finding it a little weird to talk about this knowing that barely anybody's gonna be playing it this way.
Yeah, thankfully those problems don't exist with the auto-aim system. Something you and I can both probably agree on is those siren creatures aren't too fun to deal with. They usually killed me unless I saw them coming ahead of time. Underwater segments remove one of the game's enjoyable mechanics, the cover system.
Shooting while swimming in a third-person shooter, not my forte. Why is it that you press X to swim down? I got confused multiple times and even drowned once because I'm an idiot. I don't know, when underwater I instinctively pressed the lowest face button to escape, not dive. What's happening? This is a boiler, an enemy exclusive to Resistance Retribution. They're a female variant incubated in a process that resembles boiling. Their method of attack is to simply get close to the player, then explode. Considering they don't have any means of hurting you otherwise, they're rather pathetic. You can shoot them at the base like any other chimera, but aiming for the head is a much better idea since they blow up that way with just a few bullets.
Boilers are probably the reason for the lack of a running button in this game. That, or the lack of buttons in general, honestly.
So these are the Cloven. They're a bit special. Actually, they're the previous attempts at creating an anti-chimeran vaccine. The unfinished vaccines were used on these unfortunate subjects, and now they're...
If I were to take a guess, these only exist for lore purposes. It's one of the game's most interesting concepts, yet they didn't do anything with them. Wasted potential, basically. I've noticed they'll pop up in some stages, like this one if you re-enter the sewer pipe in the second mission. You can kill them, and I have, but I have no idea if it does anything.
My favorite thing about them is how they've managed to hold on to some of their human qualities. For example, in the Cloven environments, you'll often see toys, radios, and other remnants of a personality that still lingers. I can't get over that clip, it's too good. Hey, you know, what about the music? Retribution's soundtrack is hard to put a finger on. I'd label it as cinematic chaos. There's a lot of horns being used. Well, on the subject of sound, anyone want to tell me what that obnoxious creaking is every single time you start a level?
Grayson!
I'll take this time to mention the way Retribution manages saved games. It's not that good. Levels must be completed before the player can stop the game, regardless of their checkpoint status. That only matters mid-game. If you exit, the level starts all over. And that wouldn't be so bad if there weren't a few painfully long levels in the game. As a result, this could happen. Yeah. And if I wasn't making a review, I might have stopped here because that is extremely frustrating.
Yeah, while I was playing through this game, I actually stuck my system in sleep mode a lot, and it made me realize one of the batteries I use only gets about 2 hours of playtime. I basically had to baby the thing and keep it plugged in for a few hours each day so it was charged up, so I feel you there.
Maximum pain.
Anyways, I think I liked over half of the locations in this game. The only ones I didn't care for were the Chimeran Conversion Center in Bonn, and this stupid underground bunker segment during Luxembourg. Way too many times you're trapped in rooms with an overwhelming amount of enemies. Levels can be long, but checkpoints are fairly generous, and if I was getting tired, I use sleep mode. I think the one criticism most people would have is it's very linear. You'll see small path offshoots, but they'll only ever lead to intel or pickups. There's only one path to take that keeps you advancing through the game. Gives a hit to replayability, but I think the game makes up for it through collectible intel, skill points, and one of 3 difficulty settings.
There are times where the obvious linearity gets a bit tiring, but I've noticed there are exceptions. Several levels will have you revisit the same rooms after completing some task like flicking a switch. New, different enemy spawns will now approach you, often from the direction that you once came from.
A lot of the rooms in this game are either hallways, medium-sized firefight rooms, or large spaces with little ground for yourself while enemies can go wherever they want. I did not care for rooms like this very much. The game is at its best when there's lots of cover and places to hide, and I often noticed when the game got hard, it was because it was giving me very little.
Retribution, to me, feels like a hidden gem. Despite it was received very well and popular for a short time. Still, it's not the kind of game I enjoy playing for extremely long sessions. 1 or 2 levels at a time is usually enough. And my reason is, for the most part, the annoying save system. Whether you die or lose battery life, either's bound to happen at some point.
Retribution is more like a home console game on a portable, which in my opinion is one of the main appeals of the PSP. Console quality gaming on the go. The thing is, while this is a phenomenal accomplishment on the PSP, it wouldn't be quite as impressive anywhere else. It's still very solid, but it feels like if it was on PS2 or something, it would fall ever so slightly short.
Yeah, I have a similar perspective. I thoroughly enjoyed the game, and I don't have much wrong to say about it, but I don't think you really need to get far enough to see Grayson's broken jaw in the final cutscene.
So what was that infected mode about?
Oh, right. It's another mode you can unlock with Resistance 2. Once activated, Grayson becomes infected. This features new additions to the gameplay. He wears a Spectre uniform now. In the Resistance lore, the Spectre team are the ones who recover alien tech and artifacts. Health now regenerates after a few seconds of taking cover, and you can breathe underwater. You've got a new Magnum that fires explosive rounds that you can detonate remotely. Some cutscenes have been altered to fit Grayson's situation, like for example this one where he confirms his infected status.
Aw, dude, that's fucking awesome. It's great to see the amount of replayability they added to the game.
Yeah, that's pretty much an Insomniac thing. They were reportedly quite involved with Bend Studios' work on the game, according to PlayStation.
Oh, and we haven't talked about the game's multiplayer. I don't really think we have the means of doing anything with that right now, unless you want to take a trip to America and do ad hoc.
From my memory and what I've seen online, the multiplayer still looks like a good time.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed from what I saw of it, and if I'm being honest, I was really impressed with this game in general. I really enjoyed myself.
Me too. I've always thought that this game could use a more in-depth look at some point. It's a great game if you take short breaks and come back. And it's one that you could indeed revisit with the new campaign mode and multiplayer if you're still looking for more.